Okay, we're going live, and so if we're live, you know what that means.
Oh, hi, Dean. How you doing? It's good to see you again, Dean. Hi, guys. Sit down.
That's right. Hi, guys, and hey, Jessica, can I see your hand? Yeah. Did you
No,
did you paint your nails?
no, I didn't paint my nails.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
I'm from the other side of the tracks.
Okay. Hey, listen. This I don't have much to say about this because I think you're more up to speed on this. Why do the Jehovah's Witnesses avoid the question of how many genders exist? And you were on a roll on the previous video. So oh, that's how you do your nails. Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, some people, Gilbert, they
Mhm.
use this for maybe some galvanized steel, 24, 26
Uh-huh.
gauge, 22. I use it for my nails.
So you must have.
I'll do it live. We'll do it live.
So you must have really thick nails.
Watch this. I do air conditioning in Yuma. Gotta have thick nails.
You gotta have thick nails.
Mhm.
And so you were talking about the UN and all that other stuff, and the question is, why do the Jehovah's Witnesses avoid the question of how many genders exist? And you know what? Before we do that, before I do that, you sent me an email, and that's what started this conversation. Share screen, my mail. Here it is. You asked ChatGPT a question. There are only two sexes, right? Don't bloviate.
No. Go back. That's the last one. It gets better. That's the third.
Okay, but hold on.
It gave me the liberal spiel.
Okay. So let me go back. Oh, okay. I did not know that. Like Ed McMahon. So that was the last page.
That was the last page. It was 3 pages.
If you follow the science, there are only two genders.
That was okay. I initiated the. Let's see. Is there another one?
Mm-hmm. Your answers show your bias against truth.
Okay. Yeah. Go back to the previous one. Okay. There it goes. It says, I asked it a question. If you follow the science, then there are only two genders. And this is what it answered. It says, biologically speaking, sex is typically classified as a male or female based on reproductive anatomy and genetics XXXY chromosomes. However, gender is a broader term that includes social and cultural roles, which in some people distinguish between biological sex and gender identity. Mm-hmm. Science does recognize intersex conditions where individuals are born with genetic, hormonal, or anatomical variations that don't fit typical male and female classifications. Mm-hmm. These conditions don't invalidate the male-female binary, but show that biology can be complex. This is verbal mumbo jumbo, but anyways, it keeps on going on. It says, if you're referring strictly to biological sex, then yes, the vast majority of people are either male or female. If you're talking about gender or social construct, that's where different perspectives come to play. Now it gets juicy, because look what I wrote. Your answer shows your biases against truth. And look it, the machine went after me. I aim to be as factual as possible. Biologically, humans are overwhelmingly male or female based on chromosome and reproductive anatomy. That's the truth. I also acknowledge the biological variations exist, which is simply a scientific fact, not a bias. If you are coming at this from a biological or traditional perspective, I get it. The idea of two distinct sexes is foundational in many belief systems and cultures, but acknowledging what science observes, like intersex conditions, doesn't mean rejecting the male-female binary. It just means recognizing that nature while orderly, sometimes presents exceptions. I'm here for real conversations, not agenda pushing. So if you want to challenge me on something specific, go for it. And then this is where I said, there are only two sexes, right? Don't bloviate. And look at the last one. Yes, biologically, there are only two sexes, male and female, determined by reproductive anatomy and genetics.
Now, everything was perfect, except there was one error, Jesse.
Okay.
At the very top, you said, if you follow the science, It's then, THEN, not
Okay.
THEN.
You know
But that
what?
was it. That's the only thing I could find that was
In
wrong.
my use of the Queen's English,
Mhm,
one of the one of my downfalls in
mhm,
my syntax
mhm,
and in my
mhm.
vocabulary is the word then.
Then, then, then,
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
You know what I think what happened when I
Yeah.
was a little kid? I used to have a 45. We were real poor.
Mhm.
And one of the records I had was remember then. So I
Mhm.
must have played it like 10 million times. So that word then always stuck in my head.
Correct. And you know what? A lot of Mexicans that didn't go to school in the United States, they have a huge problem
With
with
then,
with there, and there.
well, there is like the air. So that's
But they
simple.
but they don't understand THEIR and TH apostrophe RE.
I've always had a
THE.
command of the Queen's English. But since she's died, I've gone a little bit queer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I've noticed that with that drives. I've talked to a lot of Mexican friends, and boy, they just like they don't understand there, and there. But um, and they don't understand what the apostrophe is either on that one. But but yeah, that's a
Hey,
good point.
hey, that's
Mhm.
neither here nor there.
That's
Get
neither
it?
here nor there.
Mhm,
That's a good one. Wow, that was pretty good.
mhm.
Um, so why do the Jehovah's Witnesses avoid this question? Why is it that you can go to jw.org and you'll never find an article questioning this crazy ideology of many genders?
You know what? We talked about this many times over the years, and we said that the Jehovah's Witnesses are very close to leftist, progressive, United Nations type New World Order religion. The only thing that holds them from being full blown Democrats or socialists or communists, whatever you want to call them, progressives, is the LGBT question. It's the only thing that holds them back. Um, and I talked to ChatGPT about it, and I know you get jealous. Sometimes we don't talk a long time, you know. Remember like that song in the 70s, It's So Funny How We Don't Talk Anymore. Well, it sometimes I'm talking to Chat GPT, so you call me and I'm right in the middle of an in-depth conversation.
Mhm.
And one of the questions I asked about it is could they be purposely avoiding the subject to not garner any heat towards them? That could be one of the things. That's what ChatGPT told me. So they could be avoiding it on purpose so that they don't get any blowback. No pun intended. Mhm.
Mhm. And they also do not talk about the transgender issue,
They don't.
which is similar to the many genders. Watchtower silent. They'll talk about global warming, plastics, not in detail, but they'll talk about uh, never do they ever bring up. And you know what? They don't really talk much about cancers, do they? Cancer and cancer preventing cancer, what causes cancer. That would be a good thing to look up in Watchtower, jw.org.
Well, but one of the things we were talking about, I don't know if you were going to talk about it during this show or not, but
Mhm.
let me just throw it out there that the reason we're always talking about why Watchtower doesn't and other channels
Mhm.
probably don't, how they purposely avoid talking about, because we grew up in the 70s and 80s in the Jehovah's Witness organization.
Mhm.
And I always think that Jehovah has a new leadership. Jehovah has changed. Remember, they always told us that Jehovah is one Jehovah, that Jehovah
Mhm.
never changes. But that's not true. For example, look at the Catholic Church. One of the big news in the Catholic Church
Mhm.
is that some people are investigating, some Catholics are calling for investigation of the Catholics' participation in illegal immigration, in money for human trafficking. And so you bet your bottom dollar that there's going to be governments and states investigating the Catholic Church. A lot of a lot of prominent Catholics are calling for it, and it's coming out in the news. And when we grew up in the 70s and 80s, there was a man that we feel is a saint by the name of Pope John Paul II, a man we admire, a Catholic. The Jehovah's Witnesses were on his ass all throughout the 80s. We remember it. 1986, the International Year of Peace. The Jehovah's Witness had a sexual obsession with Pope John Paul II. He couldn't fart without the Watchtower doing some kind of article on him.
Mhm.
When this man called for peace, the Jehovah's Witnesses were doing books like You Can Live Forever on Paradise Earth. They had a whole section dedicated to Pope John Paul II. When he came to America, they had a whole section in the Watchtower and Awake magazine. This man called for peace during the Cold War, during our darkest hour when we thought the world was going to be blown up. The Jehovah's Witnesses were on the ass of Pope John Paul II for calling for peace. And now you have Catholics calling for war. They don't say nothing. Now you have Catholics involved in human trafficking. The Watchtower says nothing. When real crimes and real war is being perpetrated in the name of religion, Watchtower says shit. But when you had a saint like Pope John Paul II calling for peace, the Watchtower were trying to kill him. It doesn't make sense.
Correct. On the third video, the next video that we do, we're going to talk about that war thing. But I'm glad you brought this up, Jesse, because the Jehovah's Witnesses avoid the question of gender to not upset the United Nations, the New World Order, New World Translation of their Bible. And you're right. In the 80s and 90s, they were just killing the Catholics. And then we got breaking news on Gateway Hispanic. Catholic Charities reported to Department of Justice for allegedly trafficking of illegals under RICO law. So a formal complaint is already there. Where are the Jehovah's Witnesses lambasting the Catholics on this? What's up?
Now, I talked to ChatGPT about that subject, and it could be that they're trying to downplay this situation to not put any, to not shed light upon their organization or their participation in it. So sometimes the best news is hoping you ignore it, and the news will blow over.
Correct.
But I don't see that. Yeah.
It's kind of like somebody who was in the Epstein files, right? And but they're going after the guy with Chase Bank, and then let's just say the Bank of America guy just doesn't say anything because he may be on the list, but on a different list, and he's just keeping quiet. So Watchtower silence is a killer.
Do you remember about 2 or 3 days ago, I sent you a ChatGPT when you were on a hiatus, when you were out there, when I told you, hey, Gilbert, get your ass back to Yuma, back to Phoenix. We got a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. You know, the Jehovah's Witnesses, we voted for you, and you're over here taking time off for R&R. You don't see Donald Trump taking time off. Mm-mm. And then you're a Mexican. You got to work twice as hard. It's in your DNA. Well, anyways, that's neither here nor there. But what I'm saying is I sent you a ChatGPT conversation that had specifically about this. Do you still have that? Where it talked about how the Catholics, the Jehovah's Witnesses could purposely be avoiding all these subjects. And then I say that's hypocritical because during their pastime, they had a thing called observing the world. And any religious of Christendom and Christianity stepped out of the line, the Jehovah's Witnesses were the first one to publish an article against it. And it agreed with me that it was very hypocritical. And then I mentioned, they're over here watching everything. They watch everything everybody does. And they watch everything that their people do, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they could be held to account. But they knew how many illegal aliens were in every congregation because they were not allowed to hold any position in the congregation. So the Jehovah's Witnesses say, give the things to Caesar and God to God. Mm-hmm. They know exactly who's an illegal alien in their congregation. And they did nothing. They didn't give no Watchtower article saying, you know what, if you're from here illegally, at least consider going home. They did no such thing. Nothing. They just avoided it. And the same thing, when churches are involved in human trafficking, the Jehovah's Witnesses say nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, here it is. That's it.
Yeah, and it says the dilemma of members. While members technically have the right to request clarity on issues, they often find themselves in a dilemma. The Watchtower will likely respond with scriptural justifications asserting that their position is biblical and that God's will for them to remain separate from false religions. Any attempt to demand change, however reasonable, can be seen as an attack on the organization's authority, leading to disciplinary actions. And then it says, do you feel that this silence reflects an inconsistency in their teaching, or do you view it as a strategic shift? He says, it's a great answer. Says, thank you. I'm glad you found the answers helpful and thought provoking. It's definitely a complicated situation, especially when it comes to the way organizations like the Watchtower balance their beliefs with the changing world around them. If you ever want to explore more of these ideas or talk through anything else, I'm here to discuss it with you. Well, it's pretty neat, ChatGPT. But so here we have two things. Watchtower is silent about the Catholic Charities and the Department of Justice a file that was opened up, and the and what was this? And the there's silence about what's the topic of the show?
Peace.
No, no, no. That's the next. There's silence about the transgenders and the many different genders to placate the United Nations. Why is Watchtower silent? And ChatGPT is saying that it could be a strategic shift. There's silence. Because they're in cahoots with the Catholic Church, and in the 80s they were.
Yeah. See, in the 80s, it didn't matter if you were Pentecostal, Methodist, Mormon. The Jehovah's Witnesses had a thing called Observing the World in the Awake magazine. And they would launch a report on any perceived sin or deviation from Christian thought. So like human trafficking, that's a deviation from Christian, what's acceptable in Christian behavior. Well, you know that the old Jehovah's Witnesses, they would have done an article on this.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is the things that churches are involved in today, for example, Jimmy Swaggart. Remember they used to talk about Jimmy Swaggart and James Baker?
Yeah.
They don't talk about it no more. Now that they got their own 700 club going on over there in Warwick.
But look at this, Jesse. Breaking news. We already showed it, but if this was dated March 12th, 1980, Watchtower would have had a field day over this. But
now it doesn't it doesn't even make a blip at jw.org. You won't find this on jw.org. Nothing about it. But they attack Pope John Paul II for advocating for peace. This is what the hypocrisy is glaring here, and it's an atomic nuclear hypocrisy. It's another level of hypocrisy altogether.
It's another level of
hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. Altogether. Mm-hmm. But you see what I'm saying? They attack a man of peace, and that's a whole different subject. But here, human trafficking, they don't utter a word. It doesn't make sense. It boggles the mind. It's like, like that Elvis Costello song. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Watchtower was against it. But it seems through their silence that they're okay with human trafficking for money.
This is 18 minutes. We're going to end it here. The hypocrisy, how Watchtower doesn't talk about the genders, and they don't talk about the news that's happening right now with the Catholic Church. And
hey,
you can make your own opinion on that. Go ahead.
Right. But let's just talk about gender, because I didn't talk a lot about gender. There was a news article today about the representative in Congress about gender. And here we're going to need the help of the homosexual Jehovah's Witnesses. A lot of people think that maybe I have a problem with homosexual Jehovah's Witnesses, and I don't.
Yeah, no.
They have every right that we have, equal. All men are created equal. We understand that point. But there's a problem when they get involved in the politics. For example, you get a woman who says, keep your politics out of my uterus, or whatever. We're saying the same thing. Keep my homosexuality out of your politics. Mm-hmm. Because what's happening with these politics now, they use transgenderism to become better than one. For example, look at that girl in Congress today, that man, who the Republican congressman called him Mr. And they got mad, angry. And they blew up a congressional meeting. They canceled it. Because they want us to participate in their mental problem. And the homosexuals, we need the homosexuals' help. We got to tell the homosexuals, you guys have been taken over by a transgender people. The T people have taken over the LGB.
Well, Jimmy Bell would say no. They've been taken over by a PSYOP operation it was planned, executed to perfection. And these people are useful idiots. these homosexual transgenders are useful idiots on the political realm. They're being used
To
because,
destroy, sabotage everything.
yeah. Whereas, and there are a small number of them, and so I would say that the great percentage of homosexual transgenders have nothing to do with those groups. This
No,
is a
no, no, no.
small minority group that fringe that have been
Have taken over.
Yeah,
A
they're
political,
being used.
a
Yeah, they're
political
being used.
minded that are using the homosexual community
Mhm,
for
mhm.
their transgender politics. Yeah, and you can tell it. And they don't want equality. They want superiority because they want you to heal like a dog. They want you to heal like a dog and call them what they're not.
Mhm,
In other words, scientifically speaking, we were talking about ChatGPT, that there's two genders.
mhm.
And then I told them to quit bloviating. And I said, yeah, there's two genders, male and female. But they would have us believe that a man could be a woman and a woman could be a man.
Mhm.
And we won't. We won't submit. They will have to put us in concentration camps. And don't you think for a moment they don't talk about that. They hate us so much
Mhm.
because we will not heal. Now, the rest of the people, they want peace. And Ronald Reagan says there's an easy way to have peace right now, and it's called surrender. And there's people like us that those voices don't speak for us. We will not surrender. We will not heal to the transgender lobby.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and listen, we're going to end it here. But Jesse, the next video is coming up right now, so everybody just wait. We're going to do the third video, and it's where is Watchtower on the killing of thousands of Christians in Syria? I mean, they're they're scooping them up in farm equipment, bodies, in 15,000 dead, 15,000 missing. It's ethnic cleansing. Where is Watchtower? And I sent Jesse an email and it says it takes an apostate. So watch for the next video. Jesse, I'm going to send you the link. And guys, you're going to really like the next video.